Welcome to Heidi Relationships. Today, we'll read some more stories from Reddit. But before we start, I would really appreciate if you could subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe leave a comment down below. That would help the channel a lot. Thank you very much in advance. The first one is titled, "My partner secretly rented out my room to strangers. I changed the locks." God, I'm still processing how my live-in boyfriend of 3 years betrayed my trust in one of the worst ways possible. Let me give you some background first. I'm Camila, 28, and I've always been the responsible, level-headed type. My parents raised me to be independent and self-sufficient. My mom's a retired teacher, and my dad owns a small construction company. They taught me the value of hard work and financial independence from an early age. I put myself through nursing school working 2 jobs, barista in the mornings and waitressing on weekends. It wasn't easy, but I graduated with minimal student debt and landed a job as a pediatric nurse at one of Chicago's top hospitals. I love my job. Even though the night shifts can be brutal, there's something incredibly fulfilling about helping sick kids and supporting their families through tough times. I met Marcus 3.5 years ago at a friend's housewarming party. He was charming, funny, and seemed so passionate about his dreams. He had just started his online business selling custom-printed merchandise, t-shirts, mugs, that sort of thing. I was impressed by his entrepreneurial spirit and how he talked about building something from scratch. Our relationship moved pretty quickly. Within 6 months, we were spending most nights together at either his place or mine. When my lease was up after a year of dating, moving in together seemed like the logical next step. I found a nice 2-bedroom apartment in a safe neighborhood, close enough to the hospital for my commute, but still affordable. Looking back, there were small red flags I chose to ignore. Like how Marcus always had excuses when it came time to pay his share of the bills. The business had a slow month. He had to reinvest in new equipment, a supplier payment was delayed. I found myself covering more than my fair share of expenses, but I justified it as investing in our future together. I also noticed how he could be a bit opportunistic. He'd often try to network with my doctor friends, hoping to get business contracts for hospital merchandise. He convinced my dad to let him handle the promotional materials for his construction company, then delivered the products late and overcharged. Dad was too polite to say anything, but I could tell he was disappointed. But despite these issues, I thought we had a good relationship. We rarely fought, enjoyed the same TV shows, and had similar goals for the future, or so I thought. Marcus talked about marriage, kids, buying a house together. He even started sending me links to engagement rings, hinting that a proposal was in our future. I believed in him and his business. I supported his dreams. When he needed to use the living room as his office, I never complained. When he said he needed to work late nights, I brought him coffee and snacks. When friends suggested he might be taking advantage of my generosity, I defended him. That's what makes this betrayal so much worse. I trusted him completely. I gave him the benefit of the doubt time and time again. And how did he repay that trust? By literally selling my private space to strangers behind my back. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you exactly how I discovered what was happening. When we first moved in together, we agreed to split the rent 50-50, even though I made significantly more money than him. I wanted things to be equal, and I believed in supporting his entrepreneurial dreams. We each had our own bedroom because I needed a separate space to sleep during the day after my night shifts. Marcus used the living room as his office, which I was completely fine with. Everything seemed perfect until about 6 months ago, when Marcus started acting strange. He became weirdly protective of my bedroom whenever I wasn't home, always keeping the door closed and making excuses for why I shouldn't go in there during my off days. "Oh, I just cleaned in there and I don't want you messing up the sheets," he'd say, or "I'm running a humidifier in there because it smelled musty." At first, I thought he was planning some kind of surprise for me, maybe redecorating the room or setting up something special. Looking back, I should have seen the red flags, but you know how it is when you trust someone. You make excuses for their behavior. The truth came out in the most horrifying way possible. Last Tuesday, I finished my night shift early because we were overstaffed. Instead of staying until 7 a.m., I got to leave at 4:30 a.m. I was exhausted and looking forward to crawling into my bed. When I unlocked our apartment door, I heard unfamiliar voices coming from my bedroom. My heart started racing. Was someone breaking in? I quietly called out Marcus's name, but there was no response. Then I heard laughter, definitely a woman's voice. I pushed open my bedroom door and there they were, a young couple lounging on my bed watching something on their laptop. My personal photos were still on the walls, my clothes still in the dresser, but there were strange suitcases in the corner and someone else's toiletries on my nightstand. "Who the hell are you?" I demanded, my voice shaking with anger and confusion. The couple looked as shocked to see me as I was to see them. The woman, who appeared to be in her early 20s, scrambled to sit up. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Are you Camila? Marcus said you wouldn't be home until later," she stammered. "Marcus? What does Marcus have to do with this? This is my room." We we rented it through Airbnb, the guy explained, showing me his phone with the booking confirmation. "Marcus is our host. He said his roommate was away on a long business trip." I felt like I was going to be sick. My hands were shaking as I looked at the Airbnb listing on his phone. There it was, my bedroom, advertised as a cozy private room in hip Chicago neighborhood. The photos were clearly taken when I was at work, showing my room, but with all my personal items carefully removed from the shots. "Where is Marcus?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "He said he had an early morning meeting," the woman replied, looking increasingly uncomfortable. "We've been here for 3 days." 3 days. While I was working night shifts, Marcus had been renting out my room to strangers. How long had this been going on? I asked the couple to show me their booking history with Marcus. It turned out he'd been listing my room on Airbnb for nearly 4 months, timing the bookings around my night shifts. He'd made thousands of dollars, renting out my personal space without my knowledge or consent. "I need you to pack your things and leave right now," I told them, my voice cracking. "I'm sorry, but you've been scammed. This room was never Marcus's to rent out." To their credit, the couple was incredibly understanding. They even offered to help me file a complaint with Airbnb and serve as witnesses if needed. While they packed their things, I called my best friend. "I'll be there in 20 minutes, she said immediately after I explained the situation. "Don't let Marcus back in if he shows up." I sat on the living room couch, feeling violated and betrayed, while the Airbnb couple quietly gathered their belongings. They showed me screenshots of their conversations with Marcus and their payment history before they left. I thanked them for their cooperation and apologized again for the situation. My best friend arrived just as they were leaving. She took one look at my face and pulled me into a hug. "He's a manipulative bastard," she muttered. "I always knew there was something off about him." While I was still trying to process everything, my phone started blowing up with messages from Marcus. "Baby, why are the guests leaving early? Can you call me ASAP? It's not what you think. I was going to tell you about this. The extra money was going to be a surprise for our future." I blocked his number. My best friend helped me check my room thoroughly. We found evidence of multiple guests, hair ties that weren't mine, a forgotten phone charger, even a thank you note left by a previous guest praising Marcus's hospitality. My skin crawled thinking about how many strangers had slept in my bed, used my bathroom, gone through my personal space. "We need to change the locks immediately," my friend said. "I'm calling my cousin. He's a locksmith." I nodded, still in shock. "I need to document everything first. Take pictures, save screenshots." My nursing training kicked in. When facing a crisis, focus on the immediate tasks at hand. I photographed everything in my room, saved all the screenshots the couple had shared with me, and wrote down a detailed timeline of events while it was fresh in my memory. Her cousin arrived within an hour. While he worked on changing the locks, Lisa helped me pack up Marcus's essential items into boxes. I wasn't going to stoop to his level by keeping or damaging his things, but he'd lost all rights to live here. The lease was in my name only. Another detail that made his actions even more egregious. Just as my friend's cousin had finished installing the new locks, Marcus came running up the stairs. "Camilla, baby, please let me explain," he called through the door. "It was supposed to be a surprise. I was saving the money for our future." I stood firm, even though my hands were shaking. "The only surprise is finding out my boyfriend is a liar and a thief who violated my privacy and trust." "Come on, you're overreacting. It's not like anything was stolen. I made sure to only rent to verified guests with good reviews." His words made me even angrier. "Overreacting? You let complete strangers sleep in my bed. You invaded my personal space. You stole from me." "I didn't steal anything. I was making extra money for us." "For us? Really?" "Because I checked the Airbnb payment history. All the money went to your personal account. Nearly $6,000 over 4 months. That's theft, Marcus." There was a pause before he tried a different approach. "Baby, please. Where am I supposed to go? All my stuff is in there." My best friend stepped forward. "Your boxes are packed. They'll be at the storage unit down the highway. I've paid for 1 month. The unit number and access code will be texted to your sister. Don't come back here again, or Camilla will file for a restraining order. You can't do this, Marcus shouted, banging on the door. I live here! Actually, I can, I said, finding my voice growing stronger. The lease is in my name. You're not on any paperwork. You've been renting out my room illegally, and I have proof. Would you like me to call the police and explain the situation to them? The threat of police involvement finally seemed to get through to him. After a few more minutes of arguing, we heard him walk away, but of course that wasn't the end of it. Over the next few days, Marcus launched a full campaign to either get back into the apartment or paint himself as the victim. He had his sister call me, crying about how he had nowhere to go. He had mutual friends text me about how I was being cruel and unreasonable. He even posted a sob story on Facebook about how his girlfriend had thrown him out on the street with no warning. I stayed silent through it all, but I was busy. I filed a formal complaint with Airbnb, providing all the evidence I had collected. I spoke with a lawyer about my options for pursuing the stolen rental income. I had the apartment professionally cleaned, especially my bedroom. I bought new bedding, new towels, anything that strangers might have used. The lawyer I consulted was incredibly helpful. She explained that Marcus's actions constituted several civil and potentially criminal violations. He committed theft by deception, she explained during our consultation. He also violated your right to quiet enjoyment of your property, breached your privacy, and potentially put you at risk by allowing strangers access to your personal space and belongings. She helped me draft a formal demand letter to Marcus, requesting repayment of all money he earned from renting my room, plus additional damages for the violation of privacy and emotional distress. The total came to just over $10,000. Marcus's response was predictable. He claimed he couldn't pay, that he had already spent the money, that it wasn't fair because he had contributed to household expenses for 3 years. But my lawyer was prepared for this. We can pursue wage garnishment, she explained. And since he runs his own business, we can potentially place liens on his business assets. Plus, once we file the lawsuit, it becomes public record. Not great publicity for a small business owner. The threat to his business finally got Marcus's attention. 2 days after receiving the letter threatening legal action, he agreed to a payment plan. He would return the $6,000 in rental income plus an additional $4,000 in damages, paid in monthly installments of $1,000. Make sure you get it in writing, my lawyer advised, and include clauses about accelerated payment if he misses an installment. The agreement was signed and notarized the following week. Marcus couldn't look me in the eye as he signed the papers. But the financial resolution didn't heal the emotional damage. I struggled to sleep in my room for weeks, always wondering who had been in there, what they had done, what they might have seen or touched. I installed a new doorknob with a keyed lock on my bedroom door, even though I lived alone now. I became paranoid about checking and double-checking the apartment locks. My best friend was my rock through all of this. She stayed with me for the first week after everything happened, helping me reclaim my space. We sage-smudged the entire apartment. Her idea, she's into that stuff. Rearranged the furniture, and painted the walls new colors. You're not just removing Marcus, she said, as we painted my bedroom a peaceful sage green. You're reclaiming your space and your power. She was right. Each change I made to the apartment helped me feel more in control. I turned Marcus's old room into a home gym and meditation space. I rearranged the living room to create a cozy reading nook. I adopted a cat from the local shelter, something Marcus had always opposed because he claimed to be allergic. He wasn't. I'd seen him pet his sister's cats with no problems. The support I received from my coworkers was also incredible. When I finally told them what had happened, they were outraged on my behalf. My supervisor even adjusted my schedule temporarily so I could work more day shifts while I processed everything. Your home should be your sanctuary, she told me. Take the time you need to feel safe there again. 3 months have passed since that early morning discovery. Marcus has made his first 3 payments as agreed, though each one came with a text message trying to explain or justify his actions. I've maintained my silence. The money isn't really the point. It's about consequences and accountability. Airbnb finally responded to my complaint last week. They've permanently banned Marcus from their platform and offered me a generous credit for a future stay when you're ready to trust the platform again. I appreciated the gesture, but I don't think I'll be using it anytime soon. The whole experience taught me some valuable lessons about trust, boundaries, and the importance of listening to your instincts. When Marcus first started acting weird about my room, My gut told me something was wrong, but I ignored it because I trusted him. Never again. I'm sharing this story not just to warn others about potential scams or betrayals, but to remind everyone that it's okay to stand up for yourself, to demand respect, and to walk away from people who violate your trust, even if you've invested years in the relationship. Yesterday, I got a text from the couple who were my last unexpected guests. They wanted to let me know they'd been contacted by Airbnb about the investigation and had provided full statements supporting my complaint. They also said they hoped I was doing better and that I'd kicked that man to the curb. I am doing better. My cat, Lily, is curled up next to me as I write this, purring away. My apartment feels like my sanctuary again. I'm dating casually, but I'm in no rush to live with someone again. When I do, you can bet there will be very clear boundaries and expectations from day one. And you'd better believe I'll be keeping my own set of spare keys. Edit. It's been 6 months since everything happened, and I wanted to share some positive developments. Marcus has consistently made his payments, probably because his sister, who I'm still in contact with, keeps him accountable. I've used the money to invest in making my apartment truly mine, new furniture, art I love, and even a small balcony garden. I've also actually started dating someone new, a fellow nurse I met through work. He has his own place and completely understands my need for personal space and privacy. On our third date, he actually asked for my thoughts on cohabitation and boundaries, saying he'd read too many horror stories about couples rushing into living together without proper discussions. That's the kind of respect and communication I deserve. We all do. So here's to new beginnings, stronger boundaries, and the wisdom to know when to change the locks, both literally and metaphorically, on toxic relationships. Here are my thoughts about the story. This one really got under my skin. You'd think you'd get used to stories like this, but nope. Stuff like this keeps popping out of the blue. You know what struck me the most about this one specifically? The calculated nature of it all. Like, this wasn't just some dude making a dumb split-second decision. Marcus literally spent months orchestrating this scheme, timing the Airbnb bookings around Camilla's night shifts, staging photos of her room and cooking up lies to keep her out of her own space. That's some betrayal that was fully thought out. He could have stopped at any time, at any point, and chose not to. What a piece of work. And can we talk about the absolute audacity of this man? The whole bit about how it was supposed to be saving for the future? My guy, what kind of future planning involves letting random strangers sleep in your girlfriend's bed? That's not a surprise, that's a crime. I lost it at the part when he started claiming that, yeah, right, the money went straight to your personal account, my dude. At least try to make your lies make sense. The thing that really gets me is how this story highlights something I've noticed in so many relationships, this weird dynamic where one partner keeps making excuses for the other's sketchy behavior. Camilla mentioned those early red flags, him being opportunistic, mooching off her dad's business, always having excuses about money. It's like watching someone walk through a minefield while wearing a blindfold because they trust their guide. Except the guide is the one planting the mines. But here's what I absolutely love about this story: the way Camilla handled it once she found out. No dramatic confrontations, no revenge schemes, just pure professional beast mode. Documentation, lawyers, formal demands, and the most beautiful part? Using his business reputation as leverage to get him to pay up. That's the kind of calculated response I live for. Also, major props to that Airbnb couple who found themselves in the middle of this mess. They could have just bounced and ghosted, but instead they stepped up, shared evidence, and even followed up months later to help with the investigation. That's a duo with a level of empathy I'm impressed by, considering they were kicked out of the room they'd rented, wild circumstances or no. The part that made me laugh out loud? When Marcus tried to rally the troops with his sob story on Facebook about being thrown out with no warning. My dude, my guy, you were literally running an illegal hotel out of your girlfriend's bedroom. What kind of warning were you expecting? But you know what makes this story different from a lot of the ones I read? The aftermath. Camila didn't just kick him out and call it a day. She reclaimed her space, got a cat, Team Lily, painted walls, created new spaces, and even found a support group of women who went through similar experiences. That's the kind of healing journey I love to see. And that update? Dating a fellow nurse who actually initiates conversations about boundaries and cohabitation? Now that's character development. Thank everything that is good in life that there exists said good in life. These stories come from bad situations most of the time, and it's always beautiful to see that transform at the end if it does. But anyways, guys, with this, we've reached the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe and like the video/comment if you enjoyed it. I'll see you again tomorrow.